It is that time once again. We are back for a very special episode of the Apple Circle podcast. Very special for a couple of big reasons. One is that we are now less than a week away from finally seeing the iPhone 14. Finally, I'll be happy if I never have to say the words iPhone 14 again, because I feel like we've been talking about this for over a year at this point. Two, it's Matt's birthday. So Matt, happy birthday.
Sure.
The day we're recording this. Happy birthday to you. Glad you could spend your... I feel like last year on your birthday, we also podcasted. So
would not be surprised.
Thank you for spending your birthday on the podcast. And then third thing is that there's been some pretty big late-breaking, last-minute rumors that totally change the iPhone 14 Pro story. So we'll get into all that. Plus, we want to talk to you guys about how to best pre-order your iPhone 14 and 14 Pro, because these phones are no doubt going to be very hard to get. So you got to stick with us, because we will tell you all the tips of the trade, tips and tricks, everything you need to know about how to get this phone on launch day. But first, of course, we want to hear from you guys. If you guys have your own recommendations on how to get the iPhone early, you've got your own thoughts and opinions, because by the time we record the next episode, it'll be iPhone 14 pre-order day. So what I want you guys to do is, when you watch the event on Wednesday, send us your hot takes, your thoughts. Let us know at the Apple Circle hotline. The number is 949-354-3508, or you can tweet us for the Apple Circle or Apple Circle on Twitter, or the Apple Circle podcast on YouTube. Comment, let us know, because our next episode will be going through your takes and our takes on the September event as a whole. So, Matt, we're a week away. Apple Watch seems pretty much locked in. We don't know if AirPods are happening or not. But we did get some news on the iPhone 14. What happened? What happened in the last 24 hours that broke tech Twitter?
Well, I've got a few little tidbits. I think the least exciting of this actually is not about the 14 Pro, but actually the regular 14, because we've talked about many times that the 14 is going to be the most boring update that we've ever seen. But there is going to be the 14 bigger version, which we were calling the Max, because we have the 13 Max, and they've had the Max for a while. But according to this case leak that we see, it's basically the clear case that Apple makes. Maybe the name's not going to be Max. Apparently, it'll be 14 Plus, which actually I think makes a lot of sense, and it kind of differentiates it between the Pro and the non-Pro. We can talk about that more in a second. But the other news is that the famed eye-shaped cutout is no more, apparently. Apparently, this is not going to be the case, and instead it's going to be one major cutout. So I guess still in a pill shape, but just huge. And there's a few things we could talk about that go into that. But interesting news. What I think is interesting is that last week we kind of talked about this. Like, is this really what we're going to see with the iPhone 14 series? And, we got some last minute updates that maybe the previous rumors were wrong. But I think there's maybe a little bit more detail in here that it's not exactly wrong, but they're just implementing it a little differently than we might have expected. But yeah, what do you think?
So it's interesting, because I already saw some people were like, oh, look, the rumors were wrong, and like, you can't trust YouTube and stuff like that. And like, I want to say, as someone who has talked about these rumors for a long time, in the defense of those who cover it, it's not necessarily that was wrong, because the hardware of the phones is going to be two distinct cutouts. You're going to have the little circle, and then you're going to have the pill-shaped. But what this leak is really specifying is that Apple is going to use software to fill in that middle bit, basically with black dots, black pixels, because the beauty of OLED is that black looks just completely off. Yeah. They'll fill that in, so it looks like one sort of unified little cutout. And I will say, I don't know about your opinion, Matt, but I like the look of this newer notch. I wasn't totally against the double hole punch, but if this was the plan, is to fill it in, I think it looks really good. I think I prefer this over the double hole punch system.
I completely agree. I mean, it still looks kind of weird, mainly because I think we're just not used to it. But in terms of just what it looks like, I like it a lot. I'm pulling up this photo for those of you that are watching. There's this kind of photo going around where you can actually put it on your current phone that you have. It's kind of upside down, flip it over. So I'm going to show you guys here. I'm just going to hold it. This is basically what we're working with, and it looks cool in my opinion. I like it. I think this is a good look. It's definitely different, definitely unique. And I guess, on one hand you'd say, okay, fine. That looks great. But what is the point? Why are we doing this? And at least one of the reasons for this filled in shape is that apparently we're going to get that notification light in that cutout rather than up at the top of the screen. So right now, let's say you have an app that is using your microphone or it's using your camera. You'll either get like a green dot or an orange dot up in the top right, kind of in the ear next to the notch. But apparently that's going to be moved to the middle of this pill shape, and that's kind of the idea of why the screen is still going to be there, and it's going to be two separate cutouts and not just one big one, is because they're going to use that screen for this notification light, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's going to be a lot cleaner. We also got word, let me bring up the article itself, but that indication light is going to be much brighter than typical, whatever's on your screen. And the idea there is it's kind of more of a notification light, like what you have on your Mac when it's using the webcam. The green light turns on and it's very bright. It's very prominent. So I think that's kind of what they're going for, because right now, if you look, because right now I'm using my phone with AirPods, talking on the phone to Robert during this podcast, and I can see up in my little corner, it's an orange dot. But if I just look at my screen, like what I'm doing right now, it's not noticeable. Like I don't really pay attention to it anymore. But if it's like a bright thing, at least you know that something's being used. So it makes sense. I think at least it gives a purpose to what they are doing here, unlike what they did before, where they just did nothing with, there was like almost no purpose to the shrinking of the notch this year. It was just to do it. This seems like at least there's some thought behind it.
I don't know. I'm looking at that same image, Matt. I got it pulled up here, and man, it's crazy how it's hard to see like on pictures and in renders, but at least in my opinion, I'm looking at my phone here, the screen, whatever content's on the screen, looks so much more immersive.
I kind of agree, yeah.
That cutout. But, I mean, what you don't have here is the cell stuff and the battery indicator. Like, that's going to get cluttered. I don't know if I'm looking at it and it's looking more immersive because of the cutout or because there's nothing up at the top. So,
but the picture maybe are you talking on the left? Because the picture you sent me has the cell, Wi-Fi, and battery.
Well, I have a new one. Let me send it to you now. This one came out from Ian Zelbo, who does a lot of the renders for John Prosser. I'm going to send this to you right now.
If you cut to my video while you're showing that off, I'm showing the one that you sent me this morning, so you can get an up close look at what this might look like. Yeah, interesting.
It's basically it's basically the same thing, but it looks so immersive. So I don't know. So I'm digging the cutout. I really think that this looks good, and it'll be interesting to see how Apple utilizes that space. I wonder, do you think they're always going to keep those pixels dark, or do you think that is that like a hard lock in the software, or do you think there's like an app that could take advantage of that middle space, so to speak?
Oh, I think it's going to be black all the time. If they do this, I think it's always going to look like that. You're not even going to know there's screen there. I mean, maybe they could give you the option, but I don't see what the point is for that. Like, what could you do in that space? Like, can you think of anything?
Nothing really. No.
Yeah, because I mean, the way I kind of think of it is that's almost system level space, like similar to what you have in the ears right now. So you have your signal provider on one side, you have your Wi-Fi, battery, and everything on the other. Nothing touches that. That's always just there. That's Apple's own space. Like, even if an app goes in there, like nothing happens. So I think that's going to be very similar to what we have here. Is like, this is Apple system level stuff, and that's just kind of how it's going to be. I guess what I'm interested in is like, maybe with the always on display, there's like, this isn't really a thing anymore in the industry, but back in the day, Android always had these notification LEDs that people loved. And there was always rumors that Apple would bring it over in some way, but maybe they finally actually do that. So like, even if your screen's off, maybe there's a little pulsing light that tells you there's a notification or something along with that always on display. I don't know. Maybe there's more they could do here aside from just this one little rumor that we've seen.
It's just so crazy how one little rumor can change the dynamic of a year's worth of rumors, basically. And I will say, obviously, take it with a grain of salt. I will, well, a couple of things. Take it with a grain of salt because who even knows at this point? But we have heard this is a thing from Mac Rumors. Independently, I think, broke this story.
Yes.
9 to 5 Mac also independently reported on the indication, or the like LED indicators, the privacy indicator. So it seems like 2 independent sources have confirmed it. Mark Gurman has also confirmed it, which like you said earlier, he made it seem like he knew all along, which was, well, if he didn't do that, that would have been nice to know before. But anyway, so we've got at least 3 very reliable sources saying that this is going to be it. So I'm inclined to believe that. Also, we've gotten some bombshell leaks the last couple of events. And I talked about it, I think, last week. 9 to 5 Mac broke the story, I think, the morning of that the iPad Air was going to have M2. We got, obviously, the Luke Miani Studio Display and Mac Studio leak like the day before. That was a huge bombshell leak. It turned out to be true. And Mac Rumors broke the story about the notch on the MacBook Pro a couple of days before the event.
That's true.
And that was true. So I don't think it's all that far-fetched to say that this is it. And I the more I look at it, I like this notch. I like it a lot more, and I'm really excited now for the 14 Pro. So that's the story on the notch. And I'm excited. This makes me honestly more excited to see what Apple's going to do now.
Yeah, I don't know why I like because if you look at them, there's no reason why it should look any better than the eye cutout, but it just does. I just like the way it looks better, and it does feel very immersive when you kind of put it on your phone that you have now and experience it. Even though, actually, if you think about it, it's taking up more space than the notch currently does, in a way. Because, yes, the screen goes on top of it, but there's no content there. So it's like, like it actually is taking up more space, technically, but it just looks better and more immersive. So I'm all for it. I'm excited to see this in like real life in the actual phone. I think that's going to be very interesting. I'm wondering, I think this is about as bombshelly as we could get for the iPhone 14 Pro this year. Like, I can't imagine what else they would do. Like, the only other thing I could think is, like, we get the official color leaked. But, I mean, so if it's purple, then that's already leaked. But if it's not, and, they come out with some other leak that shows us what the real color is, that's the only other thing I can think of. I guess there was rumors that maybe the green is going to stick around, which I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but that's probably the one I would get if they do keep the green around.
Same.
And some are saying it's going to be purple. Maybe it'll be, but what kind of purple? Like, is it going to be more of the royal purple that they had last year with the 12 in that mid-cycle refresh? Or is it going to be more like a kind of dark purple, like, well, I guess that would be royal purple. I don't know the names for purples, but like more of a dark, rich purple that is less in your face. Almost like a midnight blue, but in the purple side. Who knows? I'm still in my head, I still don't think it's going to be purple. I just have a feeling it's not going to be purple.
I hope it's not purple. I hope they do something else. Even like an orange would be, or a bronze would be cooler than the purple. What I also find interesting, like the more I look at this, it's like, yeah, it's smaller than the notch, but also like to your point, like you do notice it more. I guess it fades away, but we always are talking about, oh, you're going to regain all this screen real estate, but really, you don't really gain much screen real estate. You gain a little bit more on each side, and then the top portion, like if you want to see if I can show on my camera here, you get a little bit more screen real estate on the very top of the phone. The camera's not going to focus. There we go. But what can you really even do with that space? It's almost useless. So this definitely seems to me like more of an aesthetics move than a functional use.
Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And it's like they decided, okay, we're going to make this aesthetic choice because we want to evolve from the notch, but we also want Face ID, and the tech just not ready to really get rid of the notch. So we're like, okay, we'll make this evolution, but since we're doing this, let's see what we can do with it, and maybe the notification thing is one of those ideas. So this is what I'll say. It's a better move than what they did with 13, where it's smaller, great, not a bad thing at all, but they talked about it for like 2 seconds on stage, and there was no reason for it. They just kind of did it. I'm willing to bet that they just did that because the components were ready, so they almost wanted to like test it, make sure everything's good, so that this year they can kind of change it a little bit more. I don't know, but yeah, who knows? Who thought we could talk this long about a notch or lack thereof notch? But it's just exciting that, kind of what we said last week. We don't know all the info yet. I mean, maybe this is the last thing that we were waiting for, but we don't know everything. We don't know the whole story, and it's always interesting to see the new leaks come out. But yeah, we'll see. I guess. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
I would say let's talk a minute about the name for the 14 Plus.
Exactly what I was about to bring up. So
I got a hard time believing. Well, we've talked before about Apple's naming scheme being super weird, and I think that you make a good point that yes, that would help differentiate the lower end phone from the higher end phone, because if you go in and go, I want a Max iPhone, a lot of people could be meaning 14 Pro Max, and they get the 14 Max, and I see the confusion there. But do you really think they're going to say 14, 14 Plus, 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max? Doesn't that seem a little bit more confusing than just doing, Max and Pro Max? Because the Pro in there seems to really signal the difference maker. At least it does to me.
Well, I mean, I think it does. It makes it clear. It just makes a lot of options. So, like, when you read the names, it makes perfect sense what you're talking about. But it also is kind of just too much to think about because I don't know. I like the name. The more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that this makes more sense than calling them both Max. Because let's say you walk into the store, you're a customer who doesn't know much about this. You say, I want a big phone. Okay, well, we have the Max. Okay, well, what's the difference between the 14 Max and 14 Pro Max? And then you have to like explain all the differences. Whereas if it's a Plus, it's like, okay, well, clearly it's not the Pro phone. So it's the iPhone 14, but it's bigger. And then this is a 14 Pro, but it's bigger. I don't know. I think it makes sense. Now the question is this a real leak? And I'm trying to pull up this article here. It's just the photo looks legit, but it's also, that would be very easy to fake. Like this is
We've
not
seen a lot
hard,
of leaked cases over the years.
That is not a hard
There
thing
were
to
even someone posted last year leaked they looked almost spitting image real flat edged Apple Watches that weren't real. So
That's
it's
true.
hard to tell what's going on. So I don't know where this one goes. I think you make a good point though about that, and it seems like whatever the name is, Apple's definitely making a bigger, cheaper iPhone. But we haven't seen a Plus since the 8 Plus. So
yeah, but I mean, it makes sense though because that was the
know.
lower end phone. The 10 was the 10. The 8 and the 8 Plus were the kind of, I mean, you could say lower end phones, but you know what I'm saying. Like they're the entry level phones, and that's how it always was. And since we've had the 10 design, we've never had the. Well, I guess that's not true. I was gonna say we never had the kind of lower end phone, but that obviously isn't true because we have the 12 and 13 now. But we've never had a bigger version of that, so I think it makes sense. I don't think it's the weirdest thing in the world. It isn't a lot of names, but I think it still is better than what they do with like the iPad and the MacBooks. Well, the MacBooks is a little different story, but the iPads in particular, like you have the iPad Pro in 2 sizes. I guess it's not that confusing. I don't know. I think it's fine. I don't really think it matters either way, honestly, what the name is. But I think Plus does make sense. And it's like a little differentiation between it and every other iPhone that we've had in the last 3 years.
Any final thoughts on Apple Watch, AirPods, Max? I mean, it's been pretty sparse in like terms of other rumors. That was really the big bombshell of the week. Did you have any final thoughts before we roll into next week? It's coming really fast. Wednesday is the day, and we're finally going to know all the secrets. Yeah, any final thoughts before we talk about tips and tricks?
Earlier today, I just had this thought. I was like, the thought just popped in my head. I was like playing the keynote in my head as like how I think it would go. And I was like, they're not going to announce an Apple Watch Pro. Just watch. They're not going to do it. It's going to be the Series 8. There's not going to be any Pro. Maybe they're working on it, but it's not coming. I just had that thought. No, nothing to back it up, but I just had that thought because for whatever reason, in the last few years, we've been really disappointed with the Apple Watch, and I don't expect it to stop this year.
It's been just, I don't know why. It's like the first couple found their footing. The 4 was a huge upgrade.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Even the 5 with the always on display was pretty good. And then the 6 and the 7 have been majorly disappointing. Hopefully the 8 steers the ship back in the right direction, though I really think it's going to take the Pro to do that. And I still am uncomfortable dropping $1,000 on a watch, but I am right now. I'm so excited to see what that watch is going to be like. What's it going to look like? I'm the unknown. There's little Apple products that are as mysterious as this. And especially after last year, there's even more heightened, like, who knows what's going to happen with the Apple Watch Pro. So right now, I'm just more excited than anything to see that reveal. And it's tough because when we're watching the event, we get to watch it for work, which is awesome. And I love doing that. But also I feel like we're also like working during the event. It's like you're taking notes, like you're trying not to miss anything. It's like, I'm going to have to go back and watch this event when it's all done at the end of the day. Pull our good friend David DeFranco on YouTube, who always, would sit down and, watch the keynote unencumbered. Just, sit back. That's what I want to do. And I want to go and relish the little moments, especially the Apple Watch Pro, because I feel like it's going to come and I'm going to be writing all the stuff down and then I'm going to miss it. But I want to revel in that newness.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's so hard. We can't complain at all in any way, shape, or form. But it would be nice to just watch the event and like just be able to take it all in. But again, no complaints whatsoever because how are we going to complain? That doesn't make any sense. But one thing I wanted to ask about the Apple Watch for you particularly, because I know you have the Series 7 and you're not necessarily one to upgrade every single year on Apple Watches. So if they do come out with an Apple Watch Pro, but it is basically this, but just maybe, I don't know, let's say it comes in like titanium and it has, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like something very minor, but it's basically the same watch, but it is technically a Pro watch. Would you upgrade to that, or does it have to be radically different for you?
This is a good question. I don't know, and I don't want to impulse buy something just because I think it's cool. I've said this before, I regret not getting the stainless steel. If I could go back and redo it, I would have done that. I think that's one of the things looking at the next watch. I've always had aluminum. I'd love to try something new, which I know is a big thing for you this year with the stainless steel.
Love it.
I think for me, one of the things that would make it worth it would be better battery life, because the one thing I want to do with my watch that I can't do is sleep tracking. The Series 7 battery life is good, but for me, at the end of the day, it's like 20%, 15%. It's like, it's not enough to get me through the night. And for me, it's like, I'm one of those people that when I get up in the morning, I put my watch on, I don't want to like think about taking it off. So if they could get the battery life good enough that it's like a solid day and a half and they really get that battery life better, or even 2 days or whatever the case may be, I'm looking for better battery life because I'd really love to do the sleep tracking. I don't want to have to, okay, the watch is at 15%, I'm going to put on the charger, then I'm going to have to remember to put it on before I go back to bed. And it's just like, that's a mess. So if they could do better battery life, that would be great. Also, the slightly larger display is fine on the Series 7, but if they're going to do something else with the 8 Pro, I want to see them better utilize that extra space, because I know this is partially my problem, but you have these larger displays on the Apple Watch, but my complications in my watch home screen looks basically the same. It's like a little bit blown up because they're not allowing for every setup and layout to like take advantage of that extra space, if that makes sense. So if the screen is going to be bigger, I'd like to see you get more info or do something else with that extra space. And then any sensors, any additional health sensors. I think the body temperature sensor would be kind of cool. Like, I love having the peace of mind knowing that like so many metrics of my body are being captured and reported and recorded by the Apple Watch. So it'd have to be a combination of those things. If it's just like a new material, then that's not going to be enough for me. Like, I've never been one to spring for the ceramic or the edition or whatever. The material is not it. But if it's better battery life, bigger screen, brighter screen, different sensors, then I'm more for it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. The Series 7 was the first watch I got since the Series 4. So I was very well due for an update. But if this Pro watch has some more features that, are more exciting, then I'm definitely going to upgrade again. If they did, for whatever reason, bring back... Here's a question, actually. Here's an interesting question for me. Maybe not for you, but for me. If they they made an Apple Watch Pro, and it came in that titanium, material and everything, and let's just say for the sake of argument, it had basically the same design, but it did have a bigger screen, and had those new features you talked about. Or they had the Series 8, which has the same design, but came in ceramic. Ooh, I might spring for the ceramic. I love that ceramic watch. And if I'm spending like similar money, I don't know. I love that ceramic watch. I don't think they're going to do that, but I'm just saying that'd be a tough decision for me. But yeah, I think, just based on rumors, I think I am going to be getting the Series 8 or Apple Watch Pro, I guess, whatever they call it. Will they call it the Apple Watch Pro Series 8, or is it just going to be Pro?
I am so curious what they're going to do. Would you remember with the edition, what did they call it? Did they call it the Series X edition, or did they say it was just the edition?
They just call I think they're all the Series whatever, and then they have the different ones inside.
Because the Series 8 Pro makes sense. The Apple Watch Pro, I think is going to have to be Series 8 Pro, because if they drop the Series 8 and just do Pro, it just seems a little bit more confusing. Like, is it on the same update cycle? Is it part of the Series 8? Is it something else? Like, I just feel like it's a little bit messy unless they're really looking to differentiate the Pro watch from the regular watch, and like moving forward, it's going to be like a different product almost. But I could see it going either way, yeah. But I feel like it's going to be Series 8 Pro.
That's what I'm thinking too, but they also, if it is really supposed to be this different watch, well, the Apple Watch SE does not stick with the series whatever name. It's its own thing now.
You're right.
So I
You're
can
right,
see the
you're
Pro
right.
doing the exact same thing, and the middle watch is just kind of like the newest base model. So I don't know. I could see both. I could see both. If anything, if the Series 8 sticks to it, I don't think they're going to call it the Series 8 Pro. I think it's going to be the Apple Watch Pro Series 8. Like it is the Series 8, but that's not part of the name necessarily. That's my guess at least. But I also think it's very
Interesting.
possible that they just don't call it anything. Have they done an updated to the series or Apple Watch SE, or do we
No,
just still have that first
this will
one?
be the first year that we get SE2.
So,
So-
that would be a question: is it going to be the Apple Watch SE Series 2, Apple Watch
No
SE
way.
2, or just the
I think
SE?
you're spot on. At just Apple Watch SE. It's just gonna be like the iPhone SE. It's like this is the new Apple Watch SE, the new
Yeah.
iPhone SE. It's just gonna be they're gonna drop all those extra names and numbers
Yeah,
and stuff. So
I
that
think they
makes
might do the
sense.
same thing for the Pro. I think it makes a lot of sense. But
That's makes a ton of sense actually. I'm excited. I cannot wait to see what they do with the watch. Okay, so you watched the announcement. You've read the spec sheet. You've made your decision. I'm going to go either 14 Pro or 14. Now here's the big hurdle. I need to pre-order this phone and I want to get it on launch day. Not an easy task, especially this year. I have a strong inkling that these phones are going to be really hard to find, at least if you want anything but the iPhone 14, because the regular 14 probably easy to pick that thing up.
I've already
But the
said
14
my,
Pro,
I've already said my opinion with the regular 14. Just buy the 13.
yeah. 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, even the 14, whatever they call it, is going to be tough. Let's talk pre-order. Matt, have you ever missed a launch day for pre-order?
No, and it's almost embarrassing to say, but no, I never have. And the one time where they didn't do pre-orders, that's the one time I stood in line all night to get the phone. So no, I've never. I think we're in the same boat, right?
Same. Never missed it. So you're talking to two experts here who have gone through years and years and years and years of pre-orders to give you the tips of the trade. So let's break down sort of the easiest way to get a phone on launch day. First off, there's a couple things you can do the day or the couple days before you go through the order process, and there's stuff to do the day of. So a couple days before, obviously figure out which phone you want to get. So whether you're going regular, you're going pro, make that determination. And then there's the question of where do you order? Do you go through the carrier? Do you go through Best Buy? Do you go through Apple? In my opinion, I've always had the best of luck with Apple because usually they have the most stock. Their ordering process has gotten a lot better in recent years. I feel like in past years it was really dicey with Apple, so you have to go to like AT&T or Verizon, but I still think like Apple is the best way to go on launch. Do you agree with that, or is there a secret other vendor you could go with?
I think it's always safest to go with Apple because I haven't really heard this in the last few years, but it definitely has happened before where like you would pre-order through, let's say, Best Buy or AT&T or Verizon or whatever, something that's not specifically Apple. You would get a pre-order of some sort and they actually run out of phones. If Apple says that you have a pre-order, you have a pre-order. Unless some, it's technically possible that the phones wouldn't get to the store, but that has never happened and we've never been in that situation. So if Apple says you're going to get a phone, you're going to get a phone. Whereas I have heard, unfortunate stories where people go through different retailers and there is some kind of mix up that just doesn't happen. They thought they were going to get this allotment at their store and that's not how many came in, that kind of thing. So if you can, definitely place your order at an Apple store first. But that is also something that, you just kind of have to be in the right place. I know for you in Southern California, no issue. For me, where I live, still no issue. I do have to go probably like half an hour to the nearest Apple store. So if I did live just a little further, it'd be even more inconvenient. But, well, that's for pickup, which we'll talk about in a second. But like if you're going to the store, that's also something you have to pay attention to. But if you're just getting shipping, order from Apple. And I think that's the best way to go.
So you decide on the phone, and there are a couple other little tidbits to do. One is there does exist a thing called the iPhone Upgrade Program, which if you haven't heard of it before, it's this program where you sign up and you're basically financing the phone through a third party called Citizen One, and you're making payments on the phone. And as long as you make 12 or 11-ish, 12 consecutive payments on the phone, and you return the phone in good condition, you'll then get a brand new iPhone. So basically, it's like a way to get a new iPhone every year. It's a great program. Typically, if you're in the upgrade program, you can get pre-approved, basically like, just I haven't been in a while, so I don't know what that pre-approval process exactly is for. Basically, making sure your info is up to date and good to go. So, because you're sort of taking out a loan in a sense or a line of credit. So, when you go through it again, everything can be run and good to go. If you are in the upgrade program, you've got to do that. You can usually do it a couple days before pre-orders go live, which is going to be tough this year because events Wednesday, pre-orders are Friday. So, Thursday, you better get on it. And also, if you're not in the program, at least this has been the case for the last couple of years, there's no way to join it until pre-orders go live. And trust me, you do not want to be joining the pre-order or the iPhone upgrade program when pre-order's live because it's going to be eating away at your precious minutes. The systems are going to be down, so don't do that. But just know that if you are in the program, get pre-approved so it'll be easier for you. If you're not, we can maybe talk about that in a little bit. There's a couple of things you can do, but just know that I would strongly recommend you not try to sign up during the pre-order window because you will probably not get your phone on launch day because the system's just going to be bogged down. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you basically want to avoid any and all paperwork, even digital paperwork, on the day of, because that's what always, the systems are already shaky to begin with. So you enter in one field, you press enter to, send it to the servers. That one thing doesn't go through, so then you have to start all over, and it's a mess. We've had these issues before. I'm part of the program, the upgrade program right now. I get a new phone every year, so it just made sense that I'm spending basically the same money anyway, so might as well just be able to get the phone I guess. Actually, I am saving money in a way. It's just I never always have the phone. But I liked it so far. I haven't had any issues with it, and it does just make my life easier, especially on the day of, because I know it's ready to go. I tell it basically the process is you have to apply for a new loan. It's a zero interest loan, so it's not like you're just basically paying it in chunks rather than all at once. So you apply for that. I mean, if you're in the program already, you're going to get approved. If you're not, then you're probably still going to get approved. This is not a stringent test, I'm pretty sure. But once you get approved, you then tell it what phone you want, what size you want, what color, all that kind of stuff as if you were purchasing it. And then it kind of just saves, at least this is what it was last year, it kind of saves this card in your Apple account. And then the day of, you just tap that card, order, and you're good to go. Like, it's that simple. So in that way, being part of the upgrade program is very easy, but it's not the only way to do it. It's still pretty easy no matter what. Another tip here, aside from the upgrade program, let's say you're not doing that, or even if you are, but if you're not, make sure you go into your account, your Apple account, and make sure all your information is up to date. So make sure your address is current, make sure your phone number is current, and most importantly, or maybe not most importantly, but equally importantly, make sure that your payment information is already in there. Whether you're using a credit card, a debit card, whatever. The easiest way is actually just to use Apple Pay, so it doesn't matter. That's not part of your account. That's just on your phone. That's the easiest way that I've found. But just make sure all that information is up to date. And if you are going to use Apple Pay, make sure you go into your Apple Pay settings and make sure your shipping address or your billing address is all up to date, because I've had multiple times where I go in there to use my Apple Pay and it's actually a different address. So just make sure everything's squared away. Go in there, and that way on day of, you go into your account, hit buy, and you buy it. That's it. You don't have to think about anything else. Last thing kind of going along with that is when the phones are announced, go into the Apple Store app or on the Apple website, find the configuration you like, and favorite it. So
that's the secret sauce right there.
Right, exactly. So you go in, let's say I want an iPhone 14 Pro. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to find the iPhone 14 Pro, I'm going to get the 512 gigabyte, for instance, and I'm going to get the green one, which I hope they make. So let's just say that's the dream config that I want. I, make it in their configurator, and then I just favorite it. You can't add it to your bag yet because it's not for sale yet, but you can favorite it. Then the day of, you just go into your favorites, click it, it's already ready to go, buy. So that's, at least on the Apple website, that's kind of the best way to do it. Whether you're in the upgrade program or not, you kind of just want to make sure everything is set beforehand.
And the reason we recommend you do that is because if you were to go to the Apple Store app now or online, like, the website's going to be fine. You can, navigate around. But the morning that pre-orders go live, the site is so slow and the precious minutes tick away so fast that you want to avoid every step possible. So in years past, when you go to order a phone, you tap it, it's super slow. Every little button, like there's so much demand that it's super slow to try to get these phones. So as much of the process as you could do ahead of time, you definitely want to do that. And I will say, like Matt just said, the favorites thing is like the secret sauce. That's the fastest way to do it because you literally can jump into your account, you go to your favorites, tap on it, order, and you're done. So that's the way to do it. I also should say that if you're on a cell plan, you want to make sure you have all the like account info. So usually that's the billing zip code, a billing passcode if you've got one. It's the last four of the social of the account holder. You got to make sure you have all that because you're going to need it. And if you're looking to bypass that, you can also always buy unlocked, which is nice because you could just, I just buy it, I'm going to pay in full and you don't need all that stuff. But you will obviously pay more for the phone. You're going to pay the full price. So just know that if you are going to go through a carrier, you need that stuff. Also, if you go through a carrier, there's payment plans and stuff. Just know that I'm not trying to discourage you from doing that. Just know that you run the risk of losing your phone because you don't have the phone until you purchase it and that order goes. Like once you get, the purchase order number, then you're fine. But if you're waiting for payment plans and stuff like that, it's just going to slow things down. So just sort of keep that in mind. What you can always do, which I'm not going to say is a foolproof plan, but I'm pretty confident this will work. You want to do it and you don't want to have any hassles, buy the phone in full, pay the full amount, and then you can always take it to the Apple Store, then return it, and then just rebuy it under whatever condition. So you're like, hey, I want to rebuy this under a Verizon payment program or whatever. Not guaranteed to work, if I can speak, not guaranteed to work, but typically I think that you can do that. Am I right or wrong on that, Matt? I think that because the phones are the same these days, you can do that.
Well, yeah, hardware-wise you can do that, but I can't remember if they actually let you do that, but I think they do. But yeah, at the very least, it's worth asking. Or if you change your mind, something like that, then you still have those 2 weeks. You can always return the phone, then buy it again. I guess this year, who knows? It could be completely different as the years before. But this is the iPhone. It's not a 16-inch maxed out MacBook Pro or anything that needs to be special ordered. They're gonna have an iPhone, whether or not it's that exact day, maybe not, but within like a week. Usually you can get the iPhone you want. But yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind is I would just recommend, if you're going to be buying the phone full out, just buy it unlocked. I wouldn't even recommend going through a carrier. You're not really saving anything. It's not helping you. In fact, if you're going to resell it later, it's going to help you there because now it's unlocked and anyone can buy it rather than just AT&T or just T-Mobile. Even though, does it even mean anything these days? Like if you buy the AT&T one, is it actually locked?
I don't think so, unless you're on a payment program where right. In that case they will lock it. But I think Apple made this switch a couple of years ago that now all the phones are like factory the same. They're all unlocked. Like there used to be the case where a CDMA and GSM, those were different phones. But I think now they're all the same phone unless you have a phone that's carrier locked. So keep that in mind. I also should say to your point, Matt, if you are looking to trade in your phone or even your watch, actually, you know what? I'm just thinking if watch orders go live at the same time, we're going to be like killing ourselves trying to order a watch. Well, phone first and then watch. Anyways, I'll get ahead of myself on trade-in. So what I've always done, and I guess, let's finish this up and I'll come back to this. So you order the phone, your payment program or whatever, like you got all that stuff squared away, you got your payment, your shipping, all that. Then there comes the question of in-store pickup or delivery. And I'll say this, Apple is really good 99% of the time that if they say you're going to get a phone on launch day, you will get a phone on launch day. They will move the heavens and the earth. They'll move mountains to make sure that you get your phone that day typically. But I think you might have been affected by this a couple of years ago. There was like some kind of freak storm or whatever with the UPS network or whatever. Yeah. And then phones were delayed. So and I've heard this a couple of occasions, there have been issues where there's delivery issues. So if you're like us and you're obsessed, what we've always recommended is go in store because the beauty of that is that you're not dependent on anyone for delivery. You don't have to worry about, did my phone ship? Is UPS doing this or doing that? Because you just got to walk in and you've got a phone basically reserved, guaranteed for you from Apple's in-stock, in-store inventory. So I've always done pickup. I think, Matt, you're doing pickup. You've done pickup. Yep. It makes things way easier. And I love not stressing about, is my phone going to come? Where's the UPS truck? My phone's stuck in Alaska or China. in-store pickup is definitely the way to go if you can do it. So that's my other tip for shipping versus in-store pickup. Another reason why I probably wouldn't use a carrier, because Apple has deals with UPS and FedEx ahead of time to make sure that your phones are like priority and they get to you. If you go through Verizon or AT&T or Best Buy, your luck will not be as guaranteed. Exactly. I'll say that.
Yep. And I know this isn't the case. I don't think this is actually true, but this has always been my experience, is that on Apple release day, UPS, has it ever been FedEx or is it always UPS?
I feel like maybe on other products it has been FedEx, but I think with the iPhone it's usually UPS.
Yeah, but whatever the service is, I've always felt that they actually deliver it very early. Obviously, you go on Twitter on release day, and there's like countless people who are like, "I'm waiting by my door for the phone to come." But I've actually been pretty impressed by how quickly the phones arrive. Where typically for me, UPS arrives at like 3 p.m. Where on Apple delivery days, it gets here at like 10 to 11 a.m. and it just has that priority. Kind of going back to what you said about Apple having a special relationship with these companies, especially for these release dates where they know they're going to be pumping them out. I've actually had, I've talked to the UPS driver when they've delivered the iPhones and they're just like, yep, like this is what I'm doing today. Like I'm delivering iPhones today. They know exactly what these boxes are. They have like 20 of them or probably more than 20. They have a ton of them in their truck and they're just delivering them to each house. In fact, I think one year, no, never mind. That's not true. I was going to make something up that I thought was true, but it's not true. Because I've seen, boxes stacked up from these UPS drivers. And so point being, I kind of agree, though. If you can go to the Apple Store, that's still the best way to do it. The way they usually do it is, you order and they give you a time of when you're going to go pick it up. For us, we want it as fast as possible. So I've always done 8 a.m., which is earlier than the store actually opens, but better than waiting till like 4 or something for UPS to get there. So I like getting there as fast as I can. 8:15. It's usually in 15-minute increments that you show up, and they're pretty good about it. There have been a few years where it still takes forever to get your phone. Like you go to the Apple Store, you check in, and then you're still there for like in 45 minutes. But in the last few years, or I guess in the COVID years, in the pandemic years, that's really when there was an issue because they're just being extra precautious. Before that and now, it's not that bad. They've got it back into normal speed. But that's the best way to do it. You walk in, grab your phone, you're done. Obviously, for us, we kind of know what we're doing. If you're listening to this, you probably know what you're doing too, so you don't need to set up your phone or anything. But if you do need to, you can set your phone up there. You can get it all going, everything that you need to do. It's just better to be in the Apple Store, I think, because you just know at the very least they're going to get you taken care of. But obviously, if you don't live near an Apple Store, then UPS is the... Here's a question, actually. Would you rather order from Apple through UPS, getting shipped to your house, or would you rather go to Best Buy if you have one near you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would honestly, I'd rather trust UPS and Apple than I would trust Best Buy.
Yeah,
Best Buy is a wild card. You never know what's going to happen, and they've got a million excuses on why things will or won't be there. I think the only time I ever got a pre-order through Best Buy was like for one of the flips or something we did for
I've done it for
the
other
John
phones,
Render channel, and like it's been okay, but I wouldn't trust it. So I'll trust Apple and UPS any day. The other recommendation and little tidbit I'll give for you is like in my case here. So I've got my iPhone 13 Pro. I'm not on the upgrade program. This is a fully unlocked. I bought the phone at full price. I don't want this phone. I could make a lot more money if I sold it privately. But the problem with that is that, well, that's a whole other topic. Basically, when the phones are launched on the 7th, the price of these are going to plummet because there's a new phone out. The market is flooded with people trying to offload their 13 Pros. So I typically will just trade it in through Apple because it's easy, it's very convenient, and you're getting a decent value. So it's at least a couple $100. I forget what it is, but it's good enough, and like it makes the price to upgrade nominal in relation to what it usually would be instead of paying full price. So what I'll do is I will order online. I won't select a trade-in, none of that nonsense. Just get me the phone ordered as fast as possible. Then what I'll do is when I go to pick up the phone, I'll just tell them, hey, I want to trade this in. Usually, sometimes I'm like, I get a little bit of like a, huh, what? But usually they're pretty good about it. It's a little bit more work for them, but it's not a huge deal. And they will just be like, okay, you walk in, you get the phone, you say, hey, I want to trade this in. And then they'll go through the process and they'll basically just credit your account back the money. It's a little bit more work for them. And I have had an instance where they're like, okay, like, we're going to have you like, go stand over here for a second when you walk in. Like, not not going to lose your place in line, but just it's a little extra work for them. But I will say, if you're going to trade anything in, don't mark it on the website because that typically will slow you down. So in my case here, I'm going to trade in my watch and my phone. I'll just say it when I get there on the release date. Little tidbit there, but if you are in the same boat, just a little heads up. You can do it the day of launch. You just got to tell the Apple Store employees. They might be a little bit mad at you, but it's their job. So that's what I'm going to say on that. Because I experienced that before.
I think I've only traded in. I think I traded in my watch last year, and I got like $120 or something because it was a Series 4. But hey, that helped go towards the price of the new watch. And I don't know. I know this is not the correct way to do it, but I just don't like selling things that much. Like, it's just kind of a pain.
It is,
so
and that's
if you
why
give me a
it's
decent
easy.
price, if you give me a decent price on the trade-in, I know I could get more if I go sell it myself. But it saves me the hassle, so that isn't enough usually to offset the lower price of the trade-in. That's just for me. Obviously, I guess the benefit of selling it yourself is, like you said, once the new product gets announced, the price of the current one dips, but you can also take your time with it. So like, you don't have to worry about it as much. Like, you can get the new one in, decide if you want to keep it. If you still like it, okay, now you could sell your old one. Yeah, you might get a little less because the new one's already out, but there's pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah, for me, it's like you're definitely like you can make more. And one year, I think it was with the 10, I sold it like a couple of weeks before the event. I used an Android phone for a while just because like I wanted to lock in that good price, and I made more money. But these days, Apple gives you a pretty good amount of money. It's like no questions asked. Like, if the phone's in good condition, they're going to give you the full amount. There's no like, I'm going to sell it to somebody, then I'm going to get scammed because they're going to say it was broken. Like, obviously that's not always the case, but I've had and heard too many horror stories to be like, you know what? I'm just not going to bother with that. Let me just give it to Apple and get some money. And you know what? I'm paying definitely a premium to upgrade, but at least I'm not going to pay the full, $1,000, $1,100. I'll be paying a couple $100 and that'll be it. So that's what I'd recommend if you're in that position. Okay, Matt. So we've gone through all the major stuff. Let's say it's launch day. You haven't been able to get a phone early. You're in the second wave. What do you do? Is there any hope to getting a phone on launch day if you weren't able to pre-order?
Well, yes, there actually is. It's actually relatively easy to get a phone on launch day if you didn't pre-order, assuming wherever you are has phones available. So if there are phones available, then you're probably going to still be able to get one. Now, I would still say don't go to Best Buy, don't go to the carriers, although in certain cases, you might have better luck with that because people just automatically go to the Apple Store. So, if you are buying the day of and you're not doing pre-orders, most of the stores still have some kind of stock available. So, whereas a lot of people are going to the store to just pick up their pre-orders, whether that be Best Buy or AT&T or Verizon or whatever, they still also have some that you can buy. So in certain cases, it does actually work to do that. But I'd say that's kind of your last resort. I'd still go to the Apple Store if you can. Obviously, if you live near one, you go to the Apple Store and kind of next to the line for the pre-order pickups, there's a line for same-day purchases. Now, this one you're going to want to get there early for. This is a first-come, first-serve situation. So, you're going to know well ahead because this phone doesn't come out for like a week after the pre-orders start. So you're going to know whether you need to get there early. But, get there as early as you can. For instance, one year I did it at the Mission Viejo Mall in Orange County. And because I'm trying to remember why I didn't pre-order.
I think, didn't you go for an earlier time? Was that what it was? I don't remember.
Maybe my pre-order was super late and I needed it earlier. So I don't know, something like that. I just remember I went to the Apple Store without a reservation. I was trying to buy one that day. And I got there before everything opened. I waited outside of the mall. And then, a little while later, they let you into the Apple Store. They start getting your information. That took quite a while, but I did get a phone. So, it's possible. Basically, you go to the store, you stand in line, they come get your information, they say, what do you want? They say, okay, we have it. If they do, then great, you can buy it. If you don't, okay, well, you can't. And what they usually do is they get your order and then they give you a time to come back. So you basically say, this is what I am, this is what I want. They say, okay, we've got it. We've got your information here. Come back at 3 p.m. or 3:15 or whatever. And that way you don't have to wait in line forever. They can get everyone's pre-order served and those same days served at the same time. And it also just makes your life easier. Like, yeah, coming back to the Apple Store is kind of annoying since you're already there, but I'd rather do that than wait until 3 p.m. in line. So that's kind of what they do. But the key is it's first come, first serve. If they run out, they run out. And on launch day, it's very typical that they will run out. So just be prepared for that. So get there early and you can most likely get a phone.
And I will say, knock on wood, this strategy has yet to fail us. I've yet to miss a pre-order.
Right, yeah.
Mark my words, it's going to be bad. But it's the favorites thing definitely works. It's having all the info updated because I've been tripped up before by the Apple Pay thing. As long as you've got all that good to go, especially if you buy on lock because it's just like you don't need all that carrier BS, you will run through it way quicker. So do all that. Again, just to recap, figure out your configuration, favorite it, make sure all your Apple info is ready to go. Then also just make sure you don't miss your alarm. And also, I guess I will say a little tidbit. I usually get up around 10 minutes early, and then I always use a little hack here. I use time.gov, which is like the, the national clock syndicate.
The actual time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I wait, and then as soon as it's, 5 a.m. Pacific on the dot, I'll refresh. And then I guess also a little bonus tip here, which we forgot to mention, different parts of Apple's system will go up at different times. So I've had always better success, I think, with the iOS app than I have with the desktop, which it's been a little bit different. It's gotten a lot better in recent years, but a little pro tip, have the Apple website on your computer loaded up, and then also have the Apple Store app on your phone as well. Because usually, I think one year I got on the iPad first, like you'll get in more quickly, if I'm speaking right, you'll get in at different times on different devices. So as many Apple devices you can have and different methods will work. And usually I think the app has been the fastest. The website has never worked best for me. It's usually the app.
Yep, I completely agree. And if you're like us, I mean, obviously not everyone is in this situation, but I mean, I go all out. I got it on my computer, I've got it on my phone, and I got it on my iPad. So like I'm refreshing. I got like 3 fingers going at once.
You got like your heart racing. You got that like adrenaline pumping. Like Twitter is going crazy. Everybody's waiting, and then just like
I know it's
what's
lame.
Funny is
I know it's lame, but the adrenaline is real. Like it's
it
really
is.
like you're like going for it.
And then the moment that it's live, you're like, okay, what am I doing? Where am I going? You're like making sure your
like
taps are going, it's going through.
Like pickup time, all right, pickup time, 8:15. Oh,
yep.
Crap. Like, 8:15's taken. Oh, all right, 9:15. Oh, God. It's crazy. And it's so stupid when you really think about it, but hey, this is our life. We love it.
First world problem. Yeah. We also, because we have the JFL network of multiple shows and channels and stuff, we're always ordering multiple phones. So it's like, okay, you got to get your phone, then you got to go back, and like it's so much fun and also so crazy and like so dumb when you talk about it, but it's so cool. It's stressful, but also like if you get in there and you make that cut, you're like, man, I did it. I got a launch day reservation. I'm good to go. And of course, this is all like first world stuff. But if you're in it and you're in the Apple world, it's a lot of fun. And this is the way to go. If you want to get your phone on launch day, follow these steps, and you've got a lot of good mojo and a lot of good things aligned for you to get it on launch day. And hopefully, if all goes well, we'll both get our phones on launch day. And the next episode we do after the event will be a launch day show of impressions. So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. It's always nice when iPhone time rolls around. I remember it last year, and it's like, because when they announce other products, it's not the same. Like even if you do order it same day, like yeah, okay, whatever, ship me the MacBook Pro. I don't really care, ship it. I'm not like dying to get it at 9 a.m. or right. I'll go to the Apple Store to pick it up. But the iPhone, for whatever reason, even though we've just been bashing it at how boring this update's going to be, it's still exciting. I don't know. Maybe that just shows a lot about us rather than the products themselves. But it's fun.
Here's a question for you, Matt, because I don't remember last year. Did watch orders went live the same as pre-orders for the phone, right?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, wait, weren't they a little delayed? Now I'm trying to remember.
Oh, no, you're right. The Series 7 was delayed because that was one of our like thinking that it was a last-minute change to this design because it was delayed like by a month.
So, this year, ordering the phone and the watch at the same time is going to be tough.
That's
so
a whole different.
And that's You definitely got to pick what your priority, which is going to be the phone, obviously.
Oh, phone for sure.
I mean, is it going to be the phone for you? Because phone for me,
definitely.
for sure.
Phone for me, for sure.
So,
I mean, unless the Apple Watch has something crazy, but I can't imagine what that could be.
now, a common question we'll probably get, do you do a double order where you do the phone and the watch in the same order, or do you order the phone, then go back and do the watch in a separate transaction?
Ooh, good question. I'd say get them each separately, just
Same.
because Apple, there's some companies that do these orders differently. Some, when it's in your cart, it's yours until like for a certain amount of time. So like you put it in your cart, okay, now you just have to go through the process, but you don't have to stress about it. Like you got your allocation there. Apple's not like that. You could, I mean, you'll still be able to order the phone. They're not going to sell out, but your ship date will slip. So you want to get in there, go for it, go as fast as you can. I think the easiest way is, like we said, favorite each of these items, the watch included. So you go favorite, buy the phone, and then you go back to your favorites, buy the watch, and you should be good. I've done both at the same, like for the Mac Studio, I bought the Studio display and the Mac Studio in one order. But that's a Mac Studio. I wasn't expecting like millions of people to be going for it, right? The iPhone's always a different story. So I'd say get what you can get, and then you kind of go from there. So just each at a time. I think you'd agree with that, right?
Man, I agree with you, and I'm just thinking about this has my heart racing. I'm thinking about it. It sounds so stupid, but it used to be the midnight was the craziest when you'd stay up till midnight, and then it's like the ball drops like it's New Year's Eve or whatever. But now they done find it at 5 a.m., which I don't love as much, but whatever. Better for you because it's 6 a.m. for you. East Coast, 8 a.m. is great. Well, we used to have the Pacific Coast advantage because all those East Coast people would be 3 a.m.
Midnight's easy.
So
but not anymore.
But that's the best advice we can give. We are super excited. Next week's episode, we will break down the entire event. And then maybe the week after, we'll do something special for launch day. We're still working on that. But in the meantime, please let us know your thoughts on the event because we'll be doing a full recap next week. Again, that number is 949-354-3508. Send us your comments, your hot takes, your feedback. What phone are you going to get? And then if you have any, I guess by the time this goes live next week, well, we won't know about pre-orders till after it goes live. But just let us know when you pre-order your phone if you got it or not. Let us know if our tips helped. And we'd be very happy to know that we could do some good by helping the Apple community get more Apple products faster. But let us know. As always, we appreciate you guys watching and listening. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. We've got the Apple Circle Podcast channel. We're also looking for any reviews or ratings on different podcast platforms or apps. So give us a rating wherever you listen. And we appreciate you guys. We appreciate your support. So thanks for watching, listening. We'll see you right back here next week on another episode of the Apple Circle Podcast.